From high-end restaurants to liquor store chains, everyone seems to be getting into private label game right now, which poses questions such as why, how, and what is actually working. When consumers hear the term private label wines, they may envision Trader Joe's 2-Buck Chuck or Costco's Kirkland signature brand, which includes Chiantis and Malbecs that retail for just $6. But what they may not realize is that the private label market has grown beyond just the bottom shelf. Premium private label wines are popping up at Costco and even Whole Foods now for as much as $24 a bottle. Traditionally, private label wines are created by brands for a company, often a retailer or restaurant, which sells exclusively via one sales channel and have typically been regarded as cheap or low quality. Of course, there are still plenty of those volume-driven, inexpensive wines out there, but these days, restaurants from Shake Shack to the French Laundry, and as well as brands like Whole Foods and Grand Hyatt hotels, are actually starting to get into the private label game, partnering with top quality wineries. What all these private label wines chiefly have in common is that the retailer, hotel chain, or restaurant often has a hand in forming the flavor profile and style of that wine, and that the resulting wines are priced lower than similar wines from recognized wineries. So these private label wines are big business and are likely to just keep getting bigger. So we're gonna start out with a couple questions for both Bill and Maurice. What is the number one reason you do private label wines? Let Bill start.
Well, there's the number one reason would be, I guess if I was going to be honest, I would say it would be, for me, it's assortment differentiation from the rest of my competition. But the other part of that too would definitely be margin enhancement. So I mean, actually, there's two answers to that question because it's one A and one B really, and they're both really, really important. So. For us, you know, with what you just laid out as far as Costco and Total and stuff, it's important to compete on the same playing field that they're working on, and to have our own items that we can really be proud of and work with and show that we are strong and dedicated and looking to really bring our customers something special, something different that they can't get somewhere else. So. That would be my answer.
Maurice, same for you.
Well, yeah, I guess that's definitely one of the reasons. I do 4 different private labels. I have 27 restaurants. They're all different concepts. So trying to put something together for 27 concepts has got to make it a little more difficult. But so I have 4 different reasons. One of them, I have a direct import Pinot Grigio from Italy. Figure, like Pinot Grigio. Anybody really asking for Pinot Grigio by name? Not really. So might as well get something. I'm looking at cost for that. Lowest cost you can get in for Pinot Grigio, served by the glass of Pinot Grigio every day at the restaurants, always ordered. Okay? So that's one reason, cost. Another reason would be I have concepts, you know, I have 4 concepts that are kind of a French Mediterranean theme to them. So we want to do a private label for them. We bring a more of a French style blend. We do a Paso Robles GSM, falls into that concept. It's more because the label works for the concept, something unique to that restaurant. They can sell retail at the restaurant. They can do by the glass, bottles, placements there. Another one we do is kind of something unique. It's like looking for something for a unique experience. We have a wine that we do out of Mexico in Baja. Reason being for that is that our company is based in San Diego, so there's a big incoming influence of Baja wines. Not very big in the nation yet, but in our region it is, and no one's doing Baja wine direct from Baja, so that was kind of a thing we can do. We bring our buyers down there. They interact with the wineries. We do barrel blending. We select from barrels. I bring guests with us as well. They do that there. And the fourth one is something coming up soon, where I think of more experiential based for our company and my staff, where I can bring my buyers, my bartenders, my servers with me. We go to the vineyards in San Diego County, and we go and source rosé. And we stomp, we crush, we harvest. They do the entire harvest of the rosé. We do the blending, and it becomes something like a story they can tell onto their guests. They can pass it on while they're talking to the guests at the tables, and it becomes more of experiential based. So I think there's 4 different reasons we do that for.
Amazing. We'll go back to Bill. What are the 3 top things that you look for when you're looking for a private label supplier?
Number one, we're trying to be more strategic and selective and look at segments on our shelves already that actually do well, but where there might be some margin problems, working with the same old avenues of purchasing. There are obviously some things that just are really universal across the market, and so we're looking for something that opens up an opportunity to succeed on that, where you're working it and you're presenting it as unique and yet similar to things that are already on people's minds.
Maurice, same question.
Yeah, I think it's part of one of those 4 reasons. I'm looking for somebody who's going to have something that fits for the concept, fits for the style what we're looking for. Whatever it be price, whether it be experience, whether it be for a specific concept or style of restaurant. But I think I don't think I'm looking for one thing from a supplier. That's what it is. There's a lot of different things you're looking for, and some suppliers will have one item that works really well, and other ones might have 2 things that work with really well for us. So I don't think it's really based on one item that we're looking for.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. 2 more, just like little start outing ones. We have plenty of time for your questions as well. Walk us through the planning stage, Bill. How much and where is it that you finally get involved in this process?
Well, again, the step 1 is identifying segments and products that you would look for, and establishing targets, things that are planned upon, so that you're not just buying things willy-nilly and looking at anything, and having a list or a guide of things that I'm looking for, like say that today where the segment would be Chilean wine, Cabernet, $15 for instance, or any kind of thing like that, or Washington State, red blend, $12, those kind of things, so that you know that there are certain things you're looking for. Because the neat thing about this show is it's pulling back the curtain and seeing the great and powerful Oz, and seeing the other side of this, how this business works. Because most of the time, if you just stay in your lane and work within the same segments and the same distributors and the same products, then you don't really get to branch out. But just having an idea of what it is you're looking for, that's the first thing, and it's probably the most important, so that you're not overwhelmed or distracted by things that really are not going to work out for you. So, and the other thing too is building towards, there's a lot of different ways of looking at this. You can look at buying existing labels out there on the floor that might work in our market because they're not there, but there's also always building towards the objective of getting to a private label where you actually own the name, the label, and you can control it. And these people out here on the floor tonight, a lot of them are the ones that can get you to that final goal and get you the products that you have, so you actually have ownership and are insulated from outside problems.
Maurice, for you?
Yeah, I think I'm involved from the very beginning with it all. I think it starts with me and then it goes out to everybody else. But I think it starts with quality, I guess, trying to find the right quality. Mm-hmm. It was great because we got to judge yesterday the competition here, and going through I was impressed by the quality of some of the wines that came through. Mm-hmm. I was expecting to get really, really poor quality wines, so I think the quality of wines are definitely increasing in private labels now. But I think it's important for us to start with quality, find out what that quality is, taste through the items, figure out what the purpose of that label is going to be, and don't forget it's called private label, so the label is super important. Mm-hmm. So I'm lucky enough that I have a great design team that work with us, and our graphic artists, they put together labels that kind of I kind of give them a direction, and they always seem to hit a home run with it, and we put it into that label. So I think it's the process, it's finding the right quality, finding the right price, and then finding that label that really sells it and really push it together. We're actually, right now, what we do is our labels is that we have a handful of our restaurants that do off-premise retail sales. So we have on-premise and off-premise at the property, and we created these gift boxes that have branded Cohn Restaurant Group gift boxes with sayings of wine all over them, and they have each slot for a carry pack of 3, and you can see our private labels in there, and people can you walk into a restaurant, sitting there right at the front door, and they can see the label and go, oh, what is that? Oh, that's only from our restaurants. You can only get it here, and it gives them an incentive to buy something extra besides just coming in and having dinner and buying a bottle of wine. Now they can take it home with them and think about us when they're at home. So I think that's also part of it, is that pushing the next step is the marketing part of it. So it gives us a reason to tweet and into Instagram and Facebook, and that's what we're trying to do, is really get themselves more involved with that part of it as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Last question for both of you, and then I have one for each of you. And everyone out there, be thinking about your questions if we haven't covered them up here yet. Looking at the current trends, which wines are you really seeing a demand for in this space?
Well, I think in our business we have 9 retail stores in the Twin Cities, and it's still very much a domestic market, and those are the things that perform the strongest. So Washington, Oregon, California, obviously, are big things, but we are seeing increases in customer acceptance and actually in demand of French wines, Spanish wines. Italian wines have always been strong. So I mean, those are also things that are targeted. So the Italian's been number one for years and years, but I really do now see, or at least I hear from my customers, that the interest in French wine throughout the country, whether it's Bordeaux or the South, Côte Roussillon, whatever, is increasing. And in the case of the wines from the south of France, I mean, they're made to please. They're just perfect for Americans. They're rich, they're sappy, they're have a lot of umami and a lot of richness. So it's not hard to get people to try them and then come back. So I think that's one of the areas where there's definitely some growth. But in the end of the day, it's still a domestic market, and we're lucky because I think everybody on the West Coast is in growth mode. So there's a lot of new things coming, both from Washington, Oregon, and California. So, and all those things are welcome, and we're doing great with them.
Maurice?
Well, I guess I make labels that aren't part of the trend because I'm doing a GSM and I'm doing like a blend of like Tempranillo, Sangiovese, and like some crazy Nebbiolo or something like that in Mexico. So I don't know if I'm really on the trend, but I think if I look at my P mixes, it's pretty much, it's like that across the board. It's Cabernet, Pinot, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Rosé are definitely the big things. One of the things I've been trying to work on, I think it's interesting that maybe in other markets where you have strong communities of restaurant tours that kind of work together. So I'm trying to work in San Diego. My market is I'm trying to work together with other sommeliers and other buyers to really come together and create a wine for San Diego, for the market, that's going to be something that's consumed in all our restaurants. So the idea was to create a Sauvignon Blanc, really. The purpose of that was to do a wine that fits the climate, and also something that's being sold, because everyone's going to buy Sauvignon Blanc, and make sure it comes from New Zealand, because everybody wants New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And I can charge $12 to $14 a glass for that, whether if it was something else, I got to charge $9, and I'd rather make the profits on that. So the idea was get these buyers together. We all go to New Zealand together, have the experience. We Instagram it, we Facebook it, and we bring it back and talk to our staff, and we bring in a bladder of it and sell it off in our market. And to me that made sense, where you have like the convention center involved, you have newspapers and local media involved with that, and it's really about the community coming together and doing something like on a larger scale. So I think that's something I've been trying to work on for a while, and now trying to get sommeliers to all agree on that. It's going to be difficult. There'll be a lot of compromise that goes on, but I think it's a lot of fun.
For sure. And then, Maurice, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier with sort of strategy, but a lot of people in the industry obviously find that it's much easier to sell private label wines in a retail store when all you have to do really is position it next to a big label and just make it cheaper for it to move. But it's very hard for restaurants to create that same sort of urgency. So how do you position your private label wines on the menu? Because I know you talked about,
by the glass. By the glass. You sell by the glass. It's the easiest way to do it. If you're not putting your private label by the glass, it's not going to sell. It's just reading off a list. What is that? I've never heard of that before. I'm not going to buy it. But if it says like Pinot Grigio by CRG, it's there it is. Pinot Grigio's by the glass. I'm drinking Pinot Grigio. Oh, red blend. I'm drinking that red blend. Whatever it might be, but it has to be by the glass. That's the way we do it.
For sure.
Otherwise, it's not worth it. It's the amount of volume you got to invest in to bring in that quantity and put it on a bottle list in a restaurant. You're not going to sell it. It has to be by the glass.
For sure. And then also the displays you were saying at the front.
Yeah, well, that's for that. Yeah, for a handful of the restaurants, because out of the 27, maybe 8 of them have the potential of doing that. So yeah.
So mostly that by the glass is how moving that in store.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then Bill, I have one more just for you, and then We'll have someone run around with a mic if we have any questions for our panel. What are some tips that you have, obviously restaurant side, retail side? From the retail side, any tips for other retailers looking to get into private label?
Yeah, again, identify the segments that you want to work in so that you're narrowing your search. Make sure that once you do that and you start going through this and make sure you love it. I mean, a lot of these quantities out here are such that you're going to be having a lot of the wine, so don't do anything unless you're absolutely confident and you love the wine, which, I mean, is not impossible. It's so easy to go out there and find something that's really good and well made and then support it in all those, every facet of your store and then promote it. And that's a big thing in the stores, even though it's your own private label, promote it at your tasting events, your in-stores. Make sure that you're always front and center with it and don't ever place it behind other things. Make sure that that's the thing that you're working and supporting and showing people. So the beauty of it is if you've done your selection well and you've found wines that you like and in the segments that you want, and then you bring them out and you show them to your customers will soon, it's really exciting when they start to take over and it's like, oh, we've had to taste that over and over again, but now I don't. Now look at it. Look at the depletions on these things. These people are familiar with it. Now it's something that was foreign, like you say, I've never heard of that before, I'm not going to buy it, into something that's just a regular part of their weekly wine regimen. So it's quite rewarding, and it can be done, and hopefully, we get to do that a lot more. It's a lot of fun supporting and showing all the things that you've spent time coming here or to another show or visiting wineries to take out and have people actually really adopt them for themselves.
We're going to have a mic pass around, so if you have a question, Daniel in the back will pass you the mic. One right here.
Hi. I hear that, value is a big part of a private label, but we've got a estate in Sonoma County, 200 plus acres, 16 varieties, full vineyard crew that gets full benefits, sustainable, all that. All the stories that sell wine in our tasting room, are those points important to you as a private label to be able to pigtail into our story of, our full-handed approach to our product? How important is that in your world? And is the bottom line price, or is it the value of whatever price you ultimately incur? How does the estate story tie into yours?
Do you want me to do it? Okay, I think, yeah, stories are great. Stories and wines with stories and real places, real bricks and mortar places are the things that are going to help us do our job. I'm on the floor quite a bit. Even though I'm a buyer, I still spend a lot of time on the floor selling wine. Stories are still one of the greatest things that you can help as far as bringing a wine to a customer where they really want to partake in the experience of it, like Maurice was talking about it. So yeah, those are good. As far as what's working right now, and it's really within a range, and the range is between $10 and $20, let's say, for weekly wine buys for people. Perhaps going over that for some things that are special events. But yeah, knowledge of the place, wineries with stories, real places, bricks and mortar wineries, and all those things are positives and work really well as you try to take it out onto the floor and sell it to your customers. So that's what people like. They really enjoy that. So we try to get out and visit a lot of wineries for that very reason, so that you can say we visited the property. We really had a great experience. These people are serious. they're skilled, they're passionate, and so are we. And I think, you know, those are the kind of things that you can really translate into working with making a successful, you know, sale. But like I say, I still see where the bulk of that work gets done, and let's say it's between 10 and 20, even 10 and 25. I think once you get over that, then you're dealing with a different kind of customer, because you have so many different types of people coming in the course of the day, from book club people to serious wine drinkers to people that just love to cook and have nice wine, people that like to impress their friends, all that kind of stuff. And so the nice thing working in a retail environment and where you see a lot of people, we learn a lot about them. We give them your story, and that's what really helps bring all that home.
Question is for Maurice. I was wondering what the production rate what the range is for your private label wines, and then also what is your ratio percentage of sales, either dollars or cases, private label versus branded wines that you have on your list?
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not a lot because that's not our intention. If I was bringing in like my house Pinot, my house Cab, my house Sauvignon Blanc, then I'm looking at large volumes. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking at experiences that are more unique. So, like, to answer his question was really the fact that if he's in Sonoma making Merlot and Cabernet, well, I can get Merlot and Cabernet from Sonoma from many, many sources. So to me, although you might have the sustainability and this family story is great, but it doesn't transcend to what I'm looking to do. I'm going to look at something that's going to be more of experiential, something that's more unique and different from that. So the volume is not going to be very high because I'm bringing in, again, a wine from Baja California. Who does wine from Baja California? Who's ever drank a Baja California wine here? I don't even know. Well, 2, 3, right? But if you're hearing about it, right? And so you come to our restaurants, you're going to try something you've never had before, and one of the only restaurants in the States probably that's actually bringing it in. So that is the reason for that. So our Pinot Grigio, you know, I might use that in maybe 10 of my restaurants, and we're probably doing maybe 5 to 6 pallets of like 70 cases a pallet or so, you know, a year. Not a whole lot, but it's something that's enough to add value to our bottom line. As far as going back to your question about is how important is it the story behind it, I think it's very important. For us, where we chose to do our Pinot Grigio is it's a winery that's 500 years old. It's been growing grapes for 500 years, been making wine since the 50s. And me going there and being with the family, learning their business and spending time on the property, and that is part of like our culture too. We have a family-run company, so it's a family business with another family. The Baja wine, it's a family-run business. The one coming for the rosé, it's a family-run business. So that's really important that we have that kind of connection with them as well. So
I just want to add something to what you're saying, because I think it's really important from the retail side too, going from there, because it's a crucial question. And if you're making a lot of these purchases in private label, you're talking about a lot of the issues, especially if you start working in France and Italy and Spain, along with in the United States, is logistics. And the logistics and managing those logistics when you used to have other people, your distributors, where handled those kind of issues, and now you have to manage those kind of issues. And so the key is to, as you take if you're a retailer, for instance, taking your percentage of sales and how much of that do you want in that kind of a purchase, because if you take it too high, you'll drive yourself nuts, literally, trying to make sure that you're always in stock. We have the stuff, it's either on the water, it's coming, or when do I reorder? And so those logistical issues become such that you really don't want to turn the majority of your inventory, obviously. I think there's probably like a sweet spot of maybe 18 to 20% tops that you'd really want to work that way, just because otherwise you're going to be on the phone, you're going to be trying to track things and making sure you're right, ordering always at the right time, things are moving in the right time. And as you know, things from Europe, there's a lot of things that can change. Arrival times, unexpected things can happen. Strikes, bad weather. I mean, we've had all kinds of hurricanes last year. We totally missed a pallets of Vouvray for Thanksgiving because of all the hurricanes, and it was difficult to deal with. So I mean, you want to decide on how difficult you want this to be, because there's with all the rewards, there's lots of other things that you have to keep in mind.
And the other part is that, you know, you not only have the fact of the price of what the cost of goods is going to be for that private label, but it's what are you losing out on the other end too, because as you know, 27 restaurants, there's suppliers that are able to do a little more marketing support in the back, and you might lose out on that by running a Cabernet by the glass. If I was to do a Sonoma Cabernet by the glass in all my 27 restaurants, they're all different concepts. Why should they all carry the exact same wine? Although it's my wine, but it's the exact same wine. They should all have a different wine, right? They should have a different Cabernet, not from Sonoma. One should be from Napa, one should be from Alexander Valley, one should be from Paso Robles. They should have a different variety of wines. And so if I narrow it down just to have that one for the price point, because I'm going to get an $8, $10 glass bottle of wine, it doesn't make sense for me, because at the same time I'm going to be missing out on maybe other support, maybe it's event support, menu printing, all those other things that's factored into it. So sometimes you have an idea to do a private label, you're still got to compete with every other brand that is out there, and there's it's a lot of competition. It's tough, you know.
Hi, Maurice, Bill. We're Zilsey Wines. We're fourth largest Australian winery. We've got a huge range of capabilities. We do specialise in private label, as well as having a top 20 Australian brand. We're looking to get back into the US. We love this market. We've sort of found that it hasn't been an opportunity for us over the last 5 years, but we're really sure that it's going to be going forward, and we want to speak to guys like you. Just really looking for some feedback from you on where you see Australia, where you see the opportunities for Australia specifically, you know, in the private label space, and any sort of tips and advice that you can offer.
Well, I judged a lot of them yesterday. There's quite a few Australian wines in there, and I was in Australia. Was it 2 years ago, and I was blown away by the quality of wine in Australia. I mean, I don't think there's anything in California that can touch what's going on in Australia right now with some of the quality you have coming out of Australia for price. It's pretty incredible. That being said, does the consumer know that, and how do I bring in the consumer? I think it's still hard. It's very, very difficult. I think it's still a hand sell sort of thing. You have to go sell at the table side. You can talk to Rob right there, who was Old Bridge Imports back in the day, was bringing in the quintessential Australian wines, and he had to sell off after the Yellowtail debacle. So he'd probably be a better resource, right, Rob? Put you on the spot on that. But I think I think it's a tough market to bring it in. I think your quality is up there and fantastic. I was blown away, but I still think it's a tough market to get into.
I definitely feeling input from customers, and I feel that there's new interest in it, and that it's growing, and it's going to be, you know, like it's going to be in the things that are $17 to $25, $15 to $25, which is nice, because that'll give you all the things that are, like Maurice just said, that are super high quality, delicious, well made, which is again, looking at other segments, really gives you a competitive advantage. Not only that, but as you taste some of the things in that segment, you see how suited they are to the U.S. market. So it's going to be a matter of taking a little bit of a leap of faith, and then making sure that you communicate it to your customers, and you also listen to them too as they come back and ask for Australian wines. But I feel that it's definitely growth there. There's really good days ahead, I think, for Australian wines in the United States.
Thank you very much.
Hi there. This is mostly a question for Bill. Bill, is your team developing kind of the brand assets, websites, any digital media accounts around your brands, or do you find suppliers usually do that?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of support when you work through your regular supply chain, and you do get a lot of that. A lot of this we're going to have to develop ourselves, and for our company, which is a 9-store company, we just recently hired a marketing director, and he's really a godsend because he's super talented, and he's worked a lot he worked for Major League Baseball, and he worked for companies where he can really bring us something. So that's something that we're developing now, and that's going to be key to have in-house development of a marketing strategy for the wines that we're buying in this manner, so that the onus will be on us, but at least now we're putting together the assets in order to be able to do it. And we're excited about that. So yeah, a lot of it's on us, and we love to work with our supplier partners and get whatever content and ideas and whatever they can give us too. But a lot of it, I think, is going to be from our own creation, and hopefully together, supplier and in-house, we can come up with some things that are really good.
Okay, this for Maurice. In your restaurants, how are you packaging your wines? Do you do mostly bottles, or do you do kegs, or?
No, it's all mostly bottles. We've tried kegs. The issue with kegs is that unless it's a direct draw system, then you have potential of a lot of waste with those long lines. So in a lot of restaurants, or the cooler is so far away from it that you have to use a 25-foot, 75, 100-foot line. So mostly it's bottles. All my private labels are bottles. I don't do the kegs. I think it's important because it's got to be something photographable, something they can share and kind of really, have something to hold on to. So I think the labels are really important for that.
Are there any up-and-coming varietals that either one of you see as something on the horizon besides the Cabernet and Chardonnay and the same things we see all the time that you would do in a private label?
If you ask me what I would do like ferment or something like that, something I'll bring, nice, crisp, high acid wines,
Yeah.
That's the direction I'd go for.
Definitely, we've had some great success with some ferments that people have really loved.
I think it's really coming in the market right now. More people are more like understanding what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Hello, gentlemen. I'm both a winemaker and a winemaking consultant in New York, and do some private labels in New York. And what's really niggling is, how do you go about even sourcing with whom you want to work to create these products? Where do you begin to even look, aside from, say, coming to a larger show like this?
Well, I've never come to a show like this to find it, so it kind of came to me, I guess. Or I was actively went to the region to look for it. I think every label is something different. I don't know. I don't think there's an answer for that because every single label was kind of done differently. Pinot Grigio was an opportunity I actually had with an importer who's a small importer. They don't have a very big book, so for them, they couldn't bring in full containers of wine and sell it on their own, so I helped them with the container, and I get half the container, I bring the other half in, and then they use the same label, but different label, same juice, and then they can sell it off, and I get it at the FOB price and bypass distribution and all that, and we warehouse it, and we have a commissary to do that. So that worked out that way, so that's one reason for that. Another one would have been just because there's local families and local vineyards in the area that we go and work with, and actually being able to select plant material and actual barrels, that's a big part of it too. If it's just like giving me sample bottles to choose from that are pre-existing blends, I'm really not that interested in that. I'd rather be able to be part of the whole process of like, no, I want that Grenache over there, and I want to be able to put a little bit more of this Chenin Blanc into it, or whatever it might be, just to have fun and make control the whole process.
Yeah, really put your own touch on it. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, I can say that too. One of the things that's been really interesting, as far as communication, lines of communications, and reaching people and seeing, hearing ideas and options that I hadn't considered, was just social media. I was out in that room out there before I even came to these shows. I'm already connected to like 10 people on the floor out there in LinkedIn, and we've had conversations about things that they do, and I've given them ideas of things that we're looking for and see how they could mesh, and just those kind of things that didn't exist 10 years ago. And all these media, all these connections for communications are great now, and they're actually kind of effective. I know sometimes people, it's like cold calling people, but really on the other hand, it's this is what I do, this is what we make, this is what we're selling, and what do you do? What tell me about your stores. I get those kind of things all the time, and it just opens up the lines, and one of them actually turned into business. So
We have time for one more question, and then we'll go with you. And then also Maurice and Bill will also be around for a moment. So if you have another one we didn't get to, you're welcome to find them in the back after this.
Thank you. I'm wondering what the life cycle of any particular brand that you've created has. So do you maintain those same 4 brands ad infinitum, or what kind of seasonality you bring
Good
to
question. I don't know. So far, I haven't gotten rid of them. I might get rid of one of them down the road just because I might find something better that fits that concept for I don't know, maybe that, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to say it in front of this group because people might be in this group that I'm working with. But yeah, I mean, I think that some of them have like a longevity to them, and other ones are probably interchangeable with another supplier down the road, I would say right now we're probably about maybe 5 years into every brand, pretty much. Some have been going on for 2 or 3 years, but the longest one's about 5 years now. Yeah.
We're such in our infancy that I really don't know yet. All I do know is that some things have taken on a life of their own, and I think they're going to be fine for a long time. Other things just really never made a connection, and it's probably my fault for choosing something that probably should have been left alone. So at this point, you just don't know yet. And I'm hoping that, if you're going to invest a lot of time and effort, that these have, like Maurice says, at least 5 years of life, and after that, who knows? So companies continue to grow, and they might change, and they might decide that, well, we don't like this avenue, we're going to actually just take and go into a regular production and go through the regular 3-tier system. But others will say, hey, man, well, this is just the beginning, so we might just keep going. So impossible for me to answer that, but it's a great question, though.
Thank you so much to our panel. Let's give a round of applause.